Can I stay here tonight? The rain fell steadily against the tall apartment windows, creating soft patterns that caught the warm lamplight. Outside, the world looked blurred and distant. Inside, everything felt close and still. Sarah stood by the glass, her arms wrapped around herself. The cream-colored sweater she wore seemed too thin, though the apartment was warm enough. Her brown bag hung limply from her shoulder, as if it too had grown tired. Behind her, the living room waited in comfortable silence, a gray couch with white pillows, a single lamp casting its gentle glow, a small green plant on the side table. Everything was quiet. Everything was calm. But Sarah was not. Her eyes were red from crying. Not the kind of crying that comes from a single moment, but the kind that builds up over hours, days, maybe weeks. The kind that empties you out gradually until you are standing at a window in someone else's apartment on a rainy evening, wondering what to do next. James stood a few feet away, watching her. He wore a dark blue hoodie over a gray shirt, and his hands hung at his sides. He had opened the door maybe 10 minutes ago when she showed up at his place without calling first. He had asked if she was okay. She had shaken her head. Since then, they had moved into this quiet room, and the rain had continued its patient work against the windows. "Sarah," he said softly. His voice was careful, the way voices become when someone is hurting. She did not turn around. "Talk to me," he said. "What happened?" The question hung in the air. Sarah finally looked over her shoulder at him. Her voice came out small and thin. "Can I stay here tonight?" James did not answer immediately. He was not the kind of person to say yes to everything, and Sarah knew this about him. She had known James for 3 years, since college. They had dated once, briefly, before deciding that friendship was more important. Since then, he had been steady in her life. He was the kind of person who told the truth even when it was hard. He was the kind of person who thought before he spoke. "Only if you stop crying," he said gently. The words landed between them like a small stone thrown into still water. Sarah's face changed. For a moment, it looked like she might cry harder. But then something shifted in her expression. She turned fully away from the window and looked at him with surprise. "What?" she asked. "I'm not saying that to be cruel," James said, and he moved a little closer. "I'm asking because I want to know what you actually need. Right now, you're crying because you're running from something, and I will let you stay here. But only if you tell me what you're running from. Because if you just stay here while you're in this state, we'll both just be waiting for you to leave again. And that won't help anyone." Sarah felt something tighten in her chest. She wanted to argue with him. She wanted to turn back to the window and let the tears continue. But she also recognized the truth in what he was saying. She had always appreciated that about James, his honest kindness. "My mom," Sarah began, and her voice wavered. She sat down on the edge of the couch. "We had a fight today. A big one." James sat down too, but he left space between them. He waited. "She wants me to quit my job," Sarah continued. "She says I'm stressed all the time, that I don't sleep, that I'm not taking care of myself. She said I should move back home for a while, that I'm failing at taking care of myself as an adult." The words came out faster now. Sarah looked down at her hands. "And the thing is," she said, "I know she's right. I am stressed. I do drink too much coffee and not enough water. I work until midnight sometimes, and I sit at my desk for 8 hours without moving. But I can't just quit. I can't just move home. I have a life here. I have goals. I have. She trailed off. Her voice got smaller. "She said I was wasting my potential," Sarah whispered. "She said she was worried I was wasting my life. And I couldn't. I couldn't listen to it anymore, so I grabbed my bag and I left. I didn't even tell her I was leaving. I just got in my car and drove here. And now I'm sitting in your apartment like I'm 15 years old again, falling apart." James listened to all of this without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay. So your mom hurt your feelings, and she said some true things mixed in with some things that are her fears talking. And instead of dealing with that, you ran away." "Yes," Sarah said quietly. "That's fair," James said. "But here's the thing. Your mom wasn't wrong about you not taking care of yourself. You work too hard. I see it. When we grab lunch, you're checking your phone the whole time. When we talk, half your mind is somewhere else. You're burning yourself out." Sarah wanted to interrupt him, but he held up a hand. "However," he continued, "the answer isn't to run away to my apartment and hide. And it's not to move home either. The answer is actually harder than both of those things. The answer is to make real changes. to actually take care of yourself. Not because your mom told you to. Because you know it matters. Sarah felt fresh tears starting, but this time they felt different. They felt like release rather than panic. I don't know how to do that, she said. I don't know how to slow down. Yes, you do, James said. You're just afraid. He stood up and walked to the small kitchenette in the corner of his apartment. He began making tea. Sarah could hear the water running, the sound of cups, the quiet clink of spoons. Here's my deal, James called over. You can stay here tonight. But tomorrow, we call your mom. And you tell her you're sorry for leaving without telling her. And then you tell her that you're going to make changes. Real ones. Not because she told you to, but because you heard her, and you realized she was trying to help. And then I'm going to help you figure out what those changes actually look like. Maybe it's working fewer hours. Maybe it's setting a boundary where you don't check email after 6 p.m. Maybe it's actually taking that yoga class you keep saying you want to try. I don't know. But we figure it out together. He came back with 2 cups of tea. The steam rose from both of them, carrying the smell of chamomile through the apartment. He handed one to Sarah and sat back down. And here's the other part of my deal, James said. You can't cry while we work on it. Not sad tears, anyway. Not the ones that come from running away. You cry all you want when you're processing something real, when you're learning something about yourself, when you're making a hard choice. But I won't let you stay here tonight, just so you can come apart. I won't let you do that to yourself. Sarah wrapped her hands around the warm cup. She looked at James. Really looked at him. She saw the kindness in his face, but also the firmness. He was not going to let her fall apart in his apartment. But he was also not going to let her face this alone. Okay, she said. Okay, I'm going to stop now. And something about saying it out loud. Something about having someone who would not accept her falling apart. Something about all of that made it possible to actually do it. The tears did not come. Instead, Sarah felt a strange kind of calm settling over her. They sat together in the warm light of the apartment, sipping their tea while the rain continued outside. They did not talk much. They did not need to. Sometimes the best thing about having a real friend is that you can just exist next to them while you figure things out. After a while, James went and got a blanket from his bedroom. He set it up for Sarah on the couch. He brought her a glass of water and set it on the small table beside her. Sleep now, he said. We'll handle everything else tomorrow. Sarah nodded. She curled up under the blanket, and James turned off the lamp. The room became darker, but not completely black. The light from the city outside came through the windows. She could still hear the rain. It sounded less sad now. It sounded like the world was washing itself clean. James, she said into the darkness. Yeah. Thank you. For not just letting me fall apart. That's what I'm here for, he said. Not to catch you when you fall, but to tell you to stand back up. In the morning, Sarah felt different. Not happy exactly, but clearer. She called her mother after breakfast. She said she was sorry. She said she had listened, even though it was hard. She said she was going to make changes. Her mother cried, but they were different tears. They were the tears of someone whose love had finally gotten through. And over the following weeks, Sarah did make changes. She set boundaries with her work. She actually did try that yoga class. She slept more and drank less coffee. It was not easy, and there were days when she wanted to go back to her old patterns. But there was something different now. There was someone who had told her to stop falling apart, and in doing so, had given her permission to actually stand up and be okay. The rain eventually stopped. The sun came back out. The city dried off and returned to normal. But something had shifted. Sarah had learned that sometimes the kindest thing someone can do for you is refuse to let you disappear into your own sadness. Sometimes love means drawing a line and saying, I won't watch you do this to yourself. And sometimes, all you need is someone who is willing to stand beside you while you figure out how to cross back over it.